Everyone thought that he was an emo loser, but he surprises everyone by becoming the strongest hero when they are summoned to another world. Hyukisetsu was an average nerd from Japan who was summoned to another world a long time ago, where he heroically saved the realm and accidentally returned to his ordinary life on Earth. The incel from the occult club thought that his quiet life will last for a long time, but one day, while he is engrossed in a conversation with his childhood friend named Yuki, a strange portal opens up in the middle of the classroom. The mystical portal sucks everyone and teleports them to a strange world where metallic giants attack them. All of his classmates start running away like little bitches, but Yuki was a Sigma with unlimited aura who had already been here and faced them head-on. Soon, a night girl named Elka, who might sell bathwater in her free time, comes with a royal army and kills the magical beasts without breaking a sweat. Later, they are summoned to the court of the king, and it turns out that they are in the kingdom of Dystinia. The king addresses them as heroes from the foreign world who have come to protect them. However, apart from Yuki, everyone is confused as hell. Yuki learns that after 5 years, Dystinia has been attacked by demons again, and the king is pinning all of his hopes on his meathead classmates. Having no other option but to obey the king, they leave while cursing their wretched luck. The next morning, his classmates are made to learn sword tactics and magic while Yuki is slacking off like a jerk and is caught by Elka. He tries to remind her that he is the same hero who saved their kingdom 5 years ago. She doesn't remember shit until Yuki gets freaky and spanks the crap out of her. She instantly falls on his feet and suddenly transforms into a submissive doormat, allowing Yuki to walk all over her. Soon she takes him to meet the other two old-time comrades, an average roid-pumping gym bro named Glean and a total smoke show sorceress. They start bombarding him with questions about his sudden disappearance after the battle, and Yuki explains how he got transported back to his original world after the battle was over. Yuki asks them about their longtime rival Toma, but Elka replies that they cannot find him anymore since he is irrelevant on social media. Later, the king declares in a meeting with the knights that their kingdom will declare war on demons, but Glean tries drilling some sense into that blockhead. It turns out, though, that the king has the IQ of a dead jellyfish, as he dismisses Glean by saying that they should have never listened to the hero's dumbest advice to live peacefully. After the meeting, Glean and the others inform Yuki that war is unavoidable, so Yuki resolves to stop the meaningless battle himself. But before going on the mission, they all break into the dungeon to get Yuki's companion blade named Kuromaru. Yuki gets ready to embark on his expedition, but Yuri comes running to him with teary eyes, worried that he's going to risk his life. So he tells her the truth about his real identity, assuring her that he's going to meet a long-time acquaintance to stop the war. Before he leaves, Yui styles his hair with her newly learnt fire and wind magic trick, promising that she will become strong until he returns. At night, while he is on his way, he strikes down a wolf demon who was ready to attack a stupid merchant bitch named Ruri. Shivering in her boots, Ruri assumes that Yuki is after her money and starts babbling about stuff like money, invoice, and bullshit, but he assures her that this isn't the case. Ruri can't believe her ears because her toxic masculine grandfather had taught her that there is no such thing as free lunch and everything comes attached with money. When Yuki starts walking away, she begs him to be her guard and help her in delivering an important package. Hesitatingly, Yuki agrees, and together they reach the Marsen port town by morning. Yuki's jaw is almost on the floor when he sees how big the town has grown in 5 years. They approached a ship owner whom Ruri had hired to take her to the demonic continent, but the tight-ass owner declines to go to that cursed battleground. Soon she starts begging every ship owner on the deck, but they all look at her like she is a psycho nutcase. Suddenly, Yuki notices Knights of Dystinia who look like scammers from India, asking Ruri to show her identification documents. They start forcing her to show the package as well, but Yuki immediately puts them in their place. In the evening, Yuki asks Ruri about her next dimwit plan to reach the demonic continent. She replies that she will buy a ship, and hearing this, Yuki realizes that she is genuinely dumber than a rock. But since he is headed to the demonic continent anyways, he offers to take her along. Soon, they check into an inn, and Ruri shows him the precious brooch that she is trying to deliver. Someone gave the brooch to her grandfather to repair, but on his deathbed, he asked Ruri to take the responsibility to deliver it to the owner. Yuki looks at it and realizes that it's the same brooch that has his protection magic, but considering that it was broken, he wonders if its owner is safe or not. At night, Yuki wakes up to the voices of the naval guards asking about their whereabouts from the owner. Soon, the guards barge into their room, but Yuki quickly carries a half-asleep Yuki and jumps out of the window to escape. The guards keep following them until they reach the dead end, and Yuki provokes them to attack him. Before they can do anything, he holds on to Ruri again and jumps into the sea, but surprisingly, they land on a water dragon named Livia, who turns out to be Yuki's comrade too. Yuki asks her to take them to the demonic continent, leaving the mutton-head guards gasping in awe. After some time, they see a large island and Yuki declares that it is the infamous demonic continent. The group arrives at a quiet, secluded beach where they unexpectedly encounter a terrifying sight of a Kraken, which is a monstrous squid-like creature towering over them with its tentacles thrashing violently in the shallow waters. Levi, who is always ready for a challenge, steps up to engage the Kraken and fights it fiercely with a mixture of her incredible strength and her elemental water abilities. As the battle rages, Levi seems to handle the situation well, but mid-fight she glances at Yuki asking for some help. Yuki, however, remains unbothered and lounges back with an amused grin, treating the intense battle as though it were some casual entertainment. He watches like a spectator at a sports game, enjoying the spectacle that Levi creates as she tussles with the monstrous creature. Things take a humorous turn when the Kraken, in a desperate attempt to defend itself, sprays a massive fountain of black ink directly at Levi. The ink covers her head to toe, and while most people might panic, Levi maintains her composure, but her irritation is clearly growing. Meanwhile, Yuki, like a bystander, is thoroughly entertained by this unexpected twist in the battle. The scene becomes almost absurdly comedic, with Yuki laughing to himself as he watches Levi battle while coated in the squid's ink. Eventually, Levi overpowers the Kraken and brings the fight to an end. As the massive creature falls, Levi transforms into a woman. Yuki, completely unfazed by this, introduces the transformed Levi to Ruri as Leviathan, also called the Ocean Goddess, and his longtime ally. He casually explains that their alliance began when he knocked Levi out with just a single punch during one of their earlier battles. After the brief introduction, Levi shifts her attention back to Yuki, confronting him about why he refused to help during the fight. The tension between them thickens as she brings up their unresolved history. Not only had Yuki avoided aiding her in the recent battle, but he also disappeared for 5 years, leaving Levi in utter confusion without any explanation. To make matters worse, when Yuki finally did return, he didn't bother to reconnect properly and simply used Levi as a convenient mode of transportation. Their argument threatens to escalate until Ruri steps in, reminding them that they still have the Kraken's body to deal with. True to form, Levi dumps the task on Yuki, and without missing a beat, Yuki uses his exceptional cooking skills to transform the colossal Kraken into delicious squid rings. Yuki, ever the modest chef, quietly mentions that he honed his culinary expertise in an effort to impress girls. As the trio sits down to enjoy the freshly prepared meal, the conversation takes a more serious turn. Levi reveals that a nearby fishing village had been plagued by the Kraken for some time, and she points out that just beyond the mountains lies the demon lord's castle called Evil Barrow. During their meal, they also uncover some startling information about Ruri's mission. She is meant to deliver a brooch to the demon lord Dazes, though until now she had no idea that this was her task. When the truth comes to light, Ruri is understandably terrified, but Yuki and Levi are nonchalant and brush off her concerns. They explain that there's no reason to be afraid after all because they're both on friendly terms with the demon lord. After eating their fill, Levi decides it's time to make her exit since the next part of their journey must be done on foot and she won't be of much help, so she might as well leave. However, Yuki insists that she stays, and much to Levi's frustration, their unresolved issues resurface as Levi brings up the fact that Yuki coasted her for 5 long years despite her keeping her promise to him and maintaining peace in the ocean during his absence. Yuki hesitates, clearly uncomfortable with the conversation, but before he can explain himself, they are interrupted by a group of curious demon children. The kids, observing Levi and Yuki's bickering, mistake it for a lover's quarrel and start teasing them, while asking Yuki to apologize to Levi. Yuki is uninterested in entertaining their nosy remarks, so he hands them some squid rings to get them to leave, but the move backfires. Instead of dispersing, the children are delighted and beg Yuki to cook more for their village, and Yuki, being the pushover when it comes to helping others, reluctantly agrees to assist the villagers. The group returns to the nearby fishing village, carrying the remains of the Kraken with them. Upon their arrival, the villagers are filled with joy because they had been struggling with the Kraken terrorizing their waters while preventing them from fishing, but now it's defeated, and they also have its body as a source of food. They throw the grand celebration in Yuki and Levi's honor, where Levi is treated like a revered goddess by the villagers. She indulges in the finest wine and food while enjoying every moment of the attention. Meanwhile, Yuki, the unsung hero, finds himself back in the kitchen, cooking up meals for the entire village. Ruri helps out by managing the counter, and despite the exhausting work, Yuki's skill in the kitchen impresses everyone present. As the party continues, Levi and Ruri take a moment to chat about Yuki. Ruri, still new to the group, is curious about the extent of Yuki's abilities and connections. As Levi fills her in on their past adventures and the role Yuki played in bringing peace to the world, Ruri begins to realize just how significant Yuki's presence truly is. The doubts she had about his power and influence quickly fade away as she understands that she's in the company of the legendary hero. Just when the celebration is winding down, the mood shifts with the arrival of Vlad, a hulking demon warrior and the personal guard of the demon lord. Vlad, initially under the impression that the village was under attack, immediately crashes into the festivities prepared for a fight. However, upon seeing the peaceful celebration, he quickly calms down and approaches Levi and Yuki. He explains that he was searching for Levi, but now that Yuki is present as well, he sees a glimmer of hope in rescuing the demon lord. Vlad reveals the troubling news that Dezes, the demon lord, is being forced into a marriage with a man named Terran. This marriage, however, is no ordinary union, but it is a form of subjugation. Terran is using a cursed necklace to control Dezes, turning her into little more than a slave. Yuki is shocked by this revelation because he had never even heard of Terran before, but Rory quickly fills in some crucial details. Terran is the wealthiest man in the world with enough resources to sway the outcome of major conflicts. Despite his wealth and influence, Vlad warns that Terran cannot be trusted and marriage is nothing more than a ploy for power. Yuki is furious at the thought of his friend being forced into such a situation and blames Vlad for failing to protect her. However, Vlad, already dealing with the weight of the accusation, defends himself by explaining that Dezes had given the order herself and he was powerless to go against it. Levi, though critical of Dezes' choice to sacrifice herself for peace, agrees that they can't abandon their friend. With the decision made, Yuki and Levi set out to rescue Dezes. They take a secret path they had once used during their battles against Dezes when she was still their enemy. As they make their way toward the Demon Lord's castle, they are attacked by monstrous wolves. Yuki, needing to conserve his magic for the upcoming fight, leaves the task of dispatching the wolves to Levi. She swiftly eliminates the beasts with her water-based attacks, using her sharp claws and overwhelming strength to tear through them. As they continue, Levi reflects on her past with Yuki. Before their alliance, she had no interest in the affairs of the land dwellers, but after fighting alongside him, she grew to appreciate the beauty of the world and its people, choosing to protect it with all her might. Finally, they arrive at the Demon Lord's castle. With Levi at his side, Yuki is determined to stop the cursed wedding and save his friend. He knows that this battle is about more than just rescuing Dezes, and it's about preventing a war that could destroy everything they fought for. 5 years ago, when the Kingdom of Destinia and the Demon Continent were at war with each other, it was Yuki who visited Dezes, extending a hand of friendship and a peace treaty to end the war. He gifted her a beautiful brooch as a symbol of their companionship, and since then, Dezes had been working day and night to keep up that promise. However, when Yuki suddenly disappeared, Dezes had to bear the burden of maintaining peace with Destinia, while simultaneously working hard to protect the Demon Continent with the help of her faithful companion Vlad. It was that creepy night when one of her soldiers came running into the Evilbarrow castle informing Dezes that the Destinian army had attacked them, and they're on their way to invade the kingdom. He also tells her that the battle has already begun outside the castle, and there is no way to stop it. Hearing this, Vlad starts doubting the peace charter that was signed 5 years ago between the Demon Continent and the Kingdom of Destinia in order to keep peace between the two. However, Dezes asks him to not jump into conclusions already, and she orders a meeting of all the top officials of the continent, announcing that they should prepare the army immediately and get ready to defend the continent no matter what. She also asks her two comrades, Xian and Laminia, to head to Destinia immediately and find out what's going on there, because the whole situation looks very suspicious to her. Dezes was trying her best to fulfill the promise, yet there was no fruitful solution at sight. Soon, with the orders of Dezes to prepare themselves for an unforeseen battle, the Demon Continent starts buzzing with preparation. The soldiers were filling the warehouses with essential commodities, the weapons were handed down while the common people looked at everything with stress and unease. However, when the soldiers came to know that they would face strange armored giants that were not there 5 years ago, they found it extremely strange, wondering why did they sign the peace charter when they had to face all this shit one day. Slowly, discontent and distrust with the humans started spreading in the kingdom, with everyone declaring that they should have never trusted the humans of Destinia. However, they trusted their lord Dezes and knew that if they followed her orders, she would save them. On the other hand, Dezes is worried about the escalation in war, wondering that it had been 1 month, yet the Kingdom of Destinia had not contacted her. This means that even if they are holding the battle for now, the Demon Continent won't last long without efforts from both ends, and war would be the last option. While she is lost in her thoughts, Vlad enters her chamber and informs her that Terran Sneeder from Terran Trading Company has requested to meet her. The lowly human enters the room and starts spouting nonsense about marriage and bullshit, angering the comrades of Dezes. However, Terran seems serious with the offer, which says that he will use the power of Terran trading to help end the war with Destinia, but in return, Dezes has to marry him. Losing with extraordinary confidence, he declares that he will not just beg for peace, but will stop the war at once with his power and wealth. He extends a piece of paper to Dezis which has all the conditions, and when she reads it, she realizes that it's not just about marriage but also an attempt by Terran to make her his slave for the rest of his life. The rude brat shows her the necklace that he will give her when they will exchange their wedding vows. When she and her comrades look at the necklace, they notice that it's interlaced with a strong curse of servitude. Her comrades keep begging her to not give in to Terran's unruly demands and straightway get rid of him, but all Dezis could do was ask for some time to think about it. Back in her chambers, Dezis keeps thinking about Terran's offer, wondering if this is the only way to keep her promise with Yuki. Suddenly, Vlad enters the room and urges her to not accept the ridiculous offer because her army is ready to fight for her until the end and they swear to protect her no matter what. Hearing this, Dezis smiles and replies that she is accepting the offer because she loves her kingdom and its people and will go to extreme ends to protect them. Finally, in the present, it's the black day of the wedding and the kingdom is beautifully decorated for Dezis. Inside the chapel, the people are eagerly waiting for her to walk the aisle while the impatient Terran is already stomping his feet in excitement. It was only because of the stupid war that Dezis agreed to his offer. Otherwise, an ugly face and obnoxious personality like his doesn't deserve any girl. One side are the people from Terran's side who are humans and obviously look very happy, but on the other side are Dezis demons who are fuming in anger because their precious lord is being forced to marry a creep like Terran. Soon the gates of the chapel open and enter a beautiful Dezis in a white wedding gown, and slowly she walks towards Terran. They are asked to exchange their vows, and Terran takes out the necklace with the curse of servitude and gets ready to put it on her. He announces that Dezis, the lord of the devil continent, has vowed to enter into servitude under him, and with this wedding, they will try to bring peace and prosperity to the kingdom of demons. Then he asks everyone to pledge their allegiance to him because he is now the lord of the demon continent, and together they will protect the world and leave their names in the history books. Soon he extends his hand to put the necklace on her while Dezis silently prays to see Yuki for one last time before she gets married to this brat. Suddenly the glass ceiling breaks with a crash and comes the hero of all times, Yuki. Just like a charming prince in fairy tales, he extends his hand for Dezis and says that he has come to rescue the princess. Realizing that he will lose Dezis, Terran asks his men to attack Yuki. Livia quickly charges in with her water power and tackles them in one go. Seeing Livia, Dezis is overjoyed, and Livia jokingly replies that Dezis really doesn't look good in white, so she must give up on wearing a wedding dress. But suddenly a strange man in a cape enters the chapel and attacks Livia with his shadow magic, binding her at one place. He mocks, saying that the god of the seas is not very remarkable on Earth, but before he can do more harm to Livia, Yuki grabs him from behind and sends him across the floor with one blow. He takes out his blade and threatens that they all should get ready to pay for making Dezis cry. The caped man smirks and replies that the whole plan was to lure Yuki in here, and now he will go and inform his master. After a bit of squabble, Yuki overpowers him, but he disappears through the castle walls, saying that for now he needs to inform his master about the new happenings and will take his revenge later. Soon, Dezis hugs Yuki, complaining that she missed him because he disappeared without telling her anything. Yuki gets flustered with the attention he is receiving and replies that his disappearance is a long story, but he is glad that Dezis is safe and hugs her. Livia is cringed after seeing this lovey-dovey reunion, so she interrupts, saying that they have to deal with the dead soldiers too. But as soon as Yuki removes the cape of one of the Terran soldiers, he disappears in thin air, confirming that they were magical soldiers who are made from curses. Yuki picks up the cursed necklace and realizes that the person behind all these curses can be none other than Toma, who is currently working behind the scenes. Dezis is filled with excitement and says that she will make him pay for making her wear this wedding costume. Yuki laughs and agrees, saying that he will leave the affairs of the demon kingdom on her, while he will go visit Regulus because it is essential to secure the aid of the king of Regulus. He reminds Dezis that they have to keep their promise of peace, and for that they need to make things work. Livia is a bit hesitant to embark on a long journey again as a means of transportation because she has been running and fighting all night and is obviously tired. Soon, Ruri comes dashing into the chapel with Vlad and asks Yuki to hand over the brooch to Dezis himself, and Yuki does as he is asked. Later, Terran is arrested and Yuki gets ready to leave for Regulus. Dezis tells him that she would have loved to accompany him, but this is not the right time for a ruler to leave her kingdom, so she would rather stay here and protect her people. Yuki agrees with her and promises to take her to various places once the war is over and there is peace again. Ruri announces that Dezis has allowed her to open her own shop in the demon continent because she delivered her precious brooch to her. Finally, Vlad comes forward and thanks Yuki for helping them out and promises that if he needs any help, he will come running over. Yui recalls the time when she first met Yuki, and at first impression he looked like a cold, emotionless child without much interest in childish stuff. Slowly, they became friends and started spending a lot of time together, and it was then Yubi realized that there is a warm and emotionally intelligent side to Yuki as well. One day, while walking back home, they come across a billboard with the poster of an elite academy, and Yuhi eagerly asks Yuki if she would be able to enter this academy if she wishes to go to the same high school as his. But Yuki coldly replies that she should aim for an easy option rather than fretting over a difficult one because that will only make things harder for her in the long run. This upsets Yuvi, who walks away and enrolls in the academy to secure her chances of entering the same school as Yuki. However, when she received her mock results, she realized that she has scored very low and it might be difficult for her to be with Yuki. Disappointed, she starts walking back home when a bunch of loafers block her way, mocking her, saying that it's beyond her abilities, so she should just give up and have more fun. They start forcing Yubi to give up studying and hang out with them. But suddenly, Yuki comes out of nowhere and sternly asks them to stop messing around with her, and the guys leave while cursing Yuki. He asks Yuhi about her plans, and she sadly replies that even if people say that she can't do it, but still she wishes to go to the same school as him. Yuki notices that Yuhi looks utterly disappointed, so he offers to help her in studies, jokingly threatening that no matter how much she cries, he won't go easy on her. Now they are in a strange land, and Yuhi barely knows much about it. While Yuki is gone, she and her classmates are training hard, and Yuhi is doing better than the rest. Later, Elka praises her and says that they all have improved a lot, so for today, they will take a break and continue with their training later. Just when Glean and Elka are about to leave, Yui comes running to them and desperately asks them to give her some extra hours of training so she can become fully trained and strong when Yuki returns. After thinking for some time and observing the clear reflection of will in Yui's eyes, they agree. Yuvi takes her to the top of the castle and solemnly tells her that the peaceful world was created by Yuki, and currently he is somewhere out there fighting under the vast sky in order to maintain peace again. She looks at Yuki and says as Yuki's companions they are always prepared so they can help him. Yuvi replies that she understands the gravity of the situation and she wants to be with Yuki, as well as work hard for it, but she lacks the strength. Saying this, she asks Elka to test her, and without wasting a moment, Elka charges at her with her sword, but Yuki blocks it, and soon they are engaged in a test of might and power. After some time, Elka looks at Yuvi and says that she has become stronger than expected and she is exceptionally talented than the rest of her peers. But if she still wants to stand beside Yuki, then there is something she still lacks. Soon she takes Yuvi through an empty underground pathway dimly lit with lamps, and Yui keeps following her like a timid puppy, repeatedly asking what she still lacks. Elka replies that they are in a sewer infested with monsters and they sometimes use it as a final training ground for soldiers. Hearing this, Yudi is visibly terrified, wondering what she is going to face in this creepy place. Suddenly, Elka whispers that something is approaching them from the dark shadows, and soon the entire sewer starts trembling and out walks a giant alligator monster. Yuvi is trembling in fear, but Elka stands beside her, urging her to go forward and tackle it to prove her strength. Gathering her strength, Yubi takes a few steps forward, but seeing the monster grows in anger, she flinches and feels extremely underconfident. However, Elka motivates her, saying that she has more than enough strength to deal with this monster, and Yubi attacks it with her fire magic, almost burning it. Assuming that the monster is dead, she looks at Elka, happily exclaiming that she has defeated it, but suddenly the monster stands on its 2 feet and injures her with its sharp claws. Yubi doesn't give up and attacks it again with fire and injures it. Elka asks her to kill it, but Yubi, being a softy at heart, is a bit hesitant, but Elka persuades her, saying that Yubi is strong enough to compete with her in terms of magic, but she still needs to learn how to kill the enemy, otherwise in this war, the enemy will end up killing her friends. If she wishes to protect those dear to her, then she must fight and end lives, and this is the determination she still lacks. Seeing that Yudi is still hesitant, Elka uses her magic and kills the monster and silently walks away. Yumi is still sad about not being able to kill the monster when Thea the sorceress knocks on her door. She enters the room and heals Yui's hand with her magical power and apologizes to her for Elka's behavior. She makes herself comfortable in Yui's room and declares that she is glad Yuki had someone like her in the other world. She also tells her that Elka truly wishes to treat her like an equal, and that is why she threw her into an actual battle to make her strong. Thea asks Yubi her reason for staying beside Yuki's side despite life-threatening dangers lurking around him. Yubi thinks for some time and immediately replies that Yuki has always helped her and has been her true friend since childhood. They used to do almost everything together, be it studying, playing, eating, or saving her from bullies, so this time she wishes to help him and lend him a shoulder he can lean on. He smiles at her honest confession and wishes her good luck. She walks out of the room to Elka, who is waiting outside, evidently worried about Yui, but pretending that she is not. Thea assures her that Yuki is strong, but Elka already knows that at this point Yui is strong enough to defend herself on the battlefield, But she is worried that if Yui fights alongside them, then there is a possibility that she might face extremely dangerous enemies. Thea, being the wiser one, advises her to let Yui decide on her own, and they all should respect her decision no matter what. The next morning, Leon finds Yuki leaning against a wall looking visibly sad. They both sit together to have a conversation, and Glean assures her that being hesitant about taking someone's life is natural, even if it's for protecting someone precious. When Yui asks about Glean's motivation and determination to fight, he replies that he chose to make others suffer rather than watch people close to him suffer exactly like a soldier. But he tells her to find her determination herself and not rely on his advice, because Yuki would also like her to make her own decisions in life. After some time, Yui takes Elka to accompany her to the monster-infested sewer. Soon an alligator monster emerges from the waters, and Elka warns her that if she tries hard to get out of her comfort zone, she might break herself, but Yui asks her to witness her determination. She attacks the monster with fire but tells Elka that it's still not dead because she has just temporarily burnt it with her power. Yui tells a confused Elka that her determination in life is to never take a life, but at the same time she will never lose. Elka looks at Yui with awe and says that she is truly impressed by her outstanding determination, but she would need immense power to pull it off every time. Yui almost jumps in joy and promises to become even stronger so she can protect Elka, Yuki, and everyone else. The next day, Glean calls all the newly appointed knights and announces that the king has already published his decree and they would have to go to war to protect the kingdom of Destinia. He asks them to prepare themselves both physically and mentally, and for Yui, it's finally the chance to accompany Elka, Glean, and Thea to war. Meanwhile, Yuki and Livia are in a carriage on their way to the next continent, and Yuki is visibly irritated to see Livia having a time of her life while munching on snacks and pretending that she is on a vacation. With her mouth half filled with food, she casually answers that for now all she can do is happily munch on snacks because she would have to use her energy when they will reach the beastman continent. Besides, she is on boat duty when they will reach the port. She mocks him, saying that it's the least he can pay to employ the god of seas for free. Yuki argues that the war has stopped all the ships, so there is no other way but to use her, and asks her to use her transfer magic so they can jump all the way to the next destination without wasting much time. Always ready to bicker with him, Livia responds that transfer magic is a big hassle which requires years of preparation, extreme magic power, and it's not something she can just do with a drop of a hat. Yuki leaves her munching on snacks because he doesn't want to engage in another debate with the chatterbox. Suddenly, the carriage comes to a halt abruptly, and Yuki and Livia hold tight to their weapons for the unforeseen danger. But just before he can do anything, two passengers try to get inside the carriage, and when Yuki looks at them, he recognizes one of them to be crybaby Alizi, and seeing Yuki after a long time. True to her name, Alizi starts crying again in happiness. After settling down, they continue their journey again, and Yuki introduces Alizi to Livia as his companion when he was summoned to this world last time. Alizi profoundly declares that she is the top student of Yuki, who taught her the fundamentals of combat. And then she introduces Yuki and Livia to Amel, her younger sister. Then finally she asks him where he disappeared for 5 whole years, abandoning her, and seeing that it's not the appropriate time, he says that he will explain about it later. He asks Alizi to accompany him to his trip to the beastman continent and help him out like she did on his trip 5 years ago, but Alizi turns a bit sad and replies that she would have loved to accompany him, but at this point of time she is caught in a serious situation. She explains that ever since Yuki vanished, she took jobs that involved fighting monsters in order to not get out of practice, and one day she accepted a villager's request to slay a dragon. It was in the village of Zafro, a village known to have quiet and nice surroundings. She was asked to live with Amel for some time. From her, she came to know that she has a brother who went out to kill the dragon, but hasn't returned yet, and since then, Amel has been living in this village alone, spending a lonely life without him. Seeing her, Alizi asks her to consider her as her older sister, and she will stay with her for some time, and that's how they both found each other. Hearing this, Yuki asks if Amel's brother went missing because the dragon killed him, but Alizi replies that it might not be the case because every time the dragon attacks, several villagers go missing, and it wasn't just Amel's brother. Normally when the dragon attacks, it leaves behind some evidence of the battle, so even if the people are defeated, they would have left behind some evidence. But it seems like everyone just disappeared without leaving a trace, as if they vanished in thin air. Hearing this, Yuki declares that this doesn't seem like a normal attack, and Livia adds that it looks like they all were spirited away. Alizi continues narrating the events and says that she thought the first thing that could possibly solve the problem was to defeat the dragon. So she took a drastic measure and disabled the ward against Evil Net in order to lure the dragon and beat it. Just as she planned, the giant dragon appeared in midnight, and they both get engaged in a dangerous embroil, but the dragon starts flying away to escape, so she cornered the dragon and went after it to finish it off, but she lost track of it and returned to the village only to find that the rest of the villagers had gone missing as well. But to her relief, Amel was still there, snuck up in the corner in fear. So at dawn, she decided to go to the city to have someone take care of her. And finally, she found Yuki and Livia. She wants to find Amel's brother and allow her to live peacefully in the village, but she doesn't understand what evil tricks the dragon is playing with her. Yuki replies that he hasn't heard of the kidnapping dragon ever, but he is willing to help because his precious student is in trouble after all, and Livia agrees to lend a helping hand too. They are still on their way and it's raining heavily while Livia is coming up with her own weird theories of the disappearing villagers. The first one clearly sounds like an urban legend because it involves zombies. She makes a scary face and creepily says that the whole village turned into Walking Dead, and there is actually an evil wizard among the villagers, but Amel seriously replies that there is no such wizard in her village. Yuki butts in saying that zombies increase in numbers and not disappear in thin air according to the infamous zombie theory. But Livia replies that they must be air zombies who, after turning into zombies, disappear somewhere. When Yuki asks about the dragon, she replies that it was the dragon zombie because there once had been a legend in the countryside about a zombie that became a dragon, and hearing this, Yuki smacks her head, asking her to take the matter seriously and not go around making up some weird fairy tales. She comes up with the theory or sirens because she has heard that when the sailors go missing, it is often assumed that it's the work of the sirens because a siren's song draws men into the ocean, and Yuki looks at her in disbelief and replies that the village is in the mountains, not beneath the damn sea. Livia becomes even crazier when she says that the siren might be living in the mountains because they love the food there. Amel replies that sea monsters have a distinct smell that makes them recognizable from a considerable distance, so this can't be the case either. The crazy energy rubbed off on Yuki as well because he assumes it to be the work of the aliens because in his world humans know that aliens come from the mood board flying saucers and abduct them, but Livia smacks his head repeating that he should take this seriously and not go around making weird stories. Yuki wonders if the dragon who attacked the villages comes from an advanced species that has the power to avoid being caught by turning into a human and living amongst villagers. However, Livia asks why the dragon didn't use its powers to make Alizi disappear, but before anyone could say anything, the carriage driver anxiously announces that they won't be able to proceed further because of the rains and floods. Livia asks what will Alizi do once she reaches the city, and she replies that she will go back to the village of Zafro and try to find evidence on the lost villagers. Yuki wonders why the dragon kept attacking the village over and over again, and Livia casually replies that it might be because it was hungry and just saw humans as prey, or maybe it was drawn there by magical powers. She explains that there is a magical power that people use to attract monsters inside the village, and some monsters really do get attracted to it. But still, they can't make sense of the villagers disappearing because even if it's magic, it doesn't explain the cause of people evaporating in thin air, and they really should be somewhere. Yuki starts making some sense out of it and asks if it's the transfer magic that was first used to teleport the villagers somewhere and then attack the village, and every time this happened, the dragon was lured in with the magic powers. An utterly confused Alizi replies that every magic requires an owner and asks if Yuki is pointing out that someone was already hiding in the village during all these disappearances. Yuki replies that she should ask the owner herself while pointing towards Amel, and soon Amel turns defensive. A nervous Alizi defends her, saying that Yuki can't blame her because she is the victim, but Yuki reminds her that Amel told them before that sea monsters have a distinct smell like Livia, but Livia, who is a sea god, never lets her powers leak out, and that clearly means that Amel is a bit sus and already knew about Livia's secret. Suddenly, he asks Amel how did she know about Livia, and before they could realize, her eyes turn red and she manually replies that she knows a bit about monsters. She bursts the carriage with her magical powers and suddenly transforms into a dragon, confirming Yuki's suspicions that she really was a dragon disguised as a human. She starts attacking them with balls of fire, but Yuki keeps dodging it. He asks Alizi to take charge while he activates his sword with Livia's powers and slams it towards the dragon. Soon, Alizi jumps in the air and attacks the dragon head-on and kills it. Yuki goes with Livia to the beastman village while Alizi returns to the village, still lost in the sweet memories of Amel. But suddenly she sees Amel followed by a large beast on the doorstep, and defensively she points her sword at it. Amel laughs at her and says that she was foolish to assume that she was dead. Alizi angrily asks her about the villagers, and she replies that she has turned them to metallic dolls because they all had strong magical powers and now they will be used in wars. Then she declares that there wasn't anyone named Amel for the whole time because she is Melior, the monster master, and Toma gave her this name. In the beastman village lives a cat girl named Sharoneko who works as a monster hunter and is loved by the people of the village. Whenever she gets off work and heads towards her home, the villagers give her all sorts of eatables like meat, fruits, and milk for her and her sick sister. On the other hand, Livia and Yuki have also reached the beastman village, but there is no boat available for them at the moment. All the boatmen are shooing them away, so Yuki asks Livia to become a boat again, But an angry Livia marches forward and declares that she will not become a boat again because she has been tirelessly swimming for 3 days and nights. Yuki apologizes to her and says that she is the only one he can depend upon for stuff like these, but he doesn't wish to push her beyond her limits. Hearing this, Livia softens down a bit and replies that if he lets him rest for a night, she is ready to become the water dragon again and help him out. The boatman sitting close by who overheard their conversation also informs them that a boat will be available tomorrow. So they both decided to spend a night at a nearby inn and continue their journey the next day. They both enter an inn run by a lady named Ems Kurueno, and coincidentally, Shiro is also present there because she often comes to buy medicine from Kurueno for her sick sister in exchange for petty work. But as soon as they enter the inn, Shiro hides herself underneath her cape and quietly walks out while staring at Yuki. Kuro welcomes them and asks if they are looking for a room, and Yuki agrees, saying that they want a room for two, and Livia adds that she wants a room with fluffy beds. Yuki also asks if there are some good shops around so they can get some delicious food for themselves, and Kuro tells them that there is a fine diner nearby that serves traditional beastman cuisine. Back home, Shiro is feeding her sister Minako while she is still thinking about the assassination job that Lady Kuro had asked her to undertake, and promise that if she does that, then she can have free medicines for her sister. The job is to assassinate Yuki, and after thinking for a while, she finally resolves to do that for the sake of her sister who has been cursed. At night, she goes to the inn and meets Kuro, who informs her that Yuki and Livia are fast asleep so she can easily get to them. Shiro looks up to Kuro as her elder sister because she not only provides her with medicine for her sister, but also looks after the poor orphans of the village. She proposes that after she is done with the job and gets paid for it, then the three of them can go live together somewhere else. Kuro declines her proposal but agrees to being called as her older sister as soon as she hands over the keys of Yuki and Livia's room to her and asks her to get the job done. Shiro quietly creeps inside the room, elongates her sharp nails, and strikes at Yuki, but all she could get was mattress and cotton, and soon she realizes that Yuki tricked her with illusion magic. Yuki takes a moment and kicks her out of the window, asking if she is also one of Toma's goons. She replies that she doesn't know who Toma is, but she will definitely take his life, and saying this, she transformed herself into a partial beast and lashed at Yuki with a fireball, but Yuki dodged it with his blade. He warns her to not use her stupid power in the middle of the town or else she will burn it down, and suddenly smacks her across the face, sending her crashing down on top of an abandoned shop. As soon as Shiro collapses, she loses consciousness, and when Yuki and Livia inspect her body, they realize that she is giving off cursed energy, and that means she must have got it from someone. After some time, Shiro wakes up to find herself in her home and gets ready to attack him again, but her sister stops her from doing that. She explains that Yuki found her unconscious and brought her inside, and Yuki secretly signals Shiro to go by his fake story instead of telling her little sister about the assassination mission. Grasping the situation quickly, Shiro thanks Yuki. Yuki replies that he knows that she has been doing odd jobs for the sake of her sick sister, and informs her that her sister is not suffering from an illness but she has been cursed by someone. He walks towards her and uses break-like magic to touch a necklace around her neck and declares that she has been under a powerful curse. Hearing this, Shiro falls to her knees and begs Yuki to save her sister and promises to do anything for him in return, and Yuki assures her that he will save her sister for sure. He warns Minako that the curse removal might be a little unpleasant, but she urges him to go forward and not worry about her. After some time, Minako is lying on a bed for the curse removal ritual, and Yuki raises his arm in the air to activate his glutton weapon and asks it to devour the curse. Soon the weapon opens up in two and starts sucking in the cursed energy from Mineko's body. But suddenly, the inn lady Kuro comes from behind and announces that they can't do that without her permission and throws a sharp dagger towards Yuki, but Shiro comes in between and takes it on her. Kuro menacingly says that Shiro not only was unsuccessful in executing her orders, but she is also protecting the target, and soon declares that she will take Yuki into her custody. Livia attacks her with her water magic, but Yuki warns her that Kuro is very strong, but Livia declares that she is the god of the sea. Kuro soon multiplies herself into many copies and traps Livia from all sides, but Livia finishes them off with her water swords. Once she has trapped Kuro from all sides, she asks her about Toma and his intentions, promising that she will not kill her if she tells the truth. She replies that Toma's goal is to become the god and destroy every species in the world, and saying that she disappears. Soon, Mineko comes running towards Shiro and hugs her, saying that she is fine now thanks to Yuki. Yuki shows Livia the cursed necklace that was on Mineko and tells her that it's the same cursed necklace that Terran gave to Dezes, and mocks Toma for dreaming big and becoming a god. But if he is planning on destroying that world, then he has no other option but to punch him and drill some sense into him. The next morning, they both hire a boat to continue their journey, and Livia is sulking about not getting enough sleep. They both are on their way to meet the Beast King, but they spot the cat sisters Shiro and Mineko on the riverside, and Yuki asks the boatman to stop the boat. Shiro offers to go along with them to Regdom to help them in battle, promising that they will be useful in combat. Yuki looks at Livia and she agrees, so Yuki asks the sisters to join in. In Regdom, the royal kingdom, the Beast King is sandwiched between two opinions. One group of men are trying to pressurize him into occupying both human and demon kingdoms, while the other side wishes to stay on the lines of peace and not make things worse. Meanwhile, Yuki and his team have reached the palace doors, but the guards there are proving to be a huge pain in their asses because they are not allowing them to enter the palace. But suddenly Yuki hears a familiar voice from above, and soon they see the king's daughter Ro making a dramatic entry by leaping on them. She stomps on the palace guards and clings onto Yuki, excitedly exclaiming that he still smells the same, but suddenly she decides to test Yuki. However, he is too old for these tricks and quickly overpowers her. Ro gleams in happiness, saying that she never underestimated him as her master, but Yuki quickly denies that he is not going to become her master. Seeing them all clingy and lovey-dovey, the cat sisters and Livia almost feel like they will throw up, but they can do nothing about that considering Yuki is very popular among girls. She takes them to her father, the emperor of a land, while still clinging on Yuki's arm. Ro asks him about his sudden disappearance and confronts him about not coming back to her, but Yuki just changes the topic by saying that a lot happened and he will tell about it later. Soon they reach the king's palace, and just like his daughter, the emperor jumps on him, but Yuki is quick to flip him over and knock him to the ground. The king exclaims in joy that it really is Yuki because only he can flip him with such power. He takes them inside and orders for a feast to celebrate the special occasion of Yuki's arrival, but Yuki tells him that he will keep the feast for later because for now he is here for important business. The Beastman King already knows about the recent happenings and says that he is aware about the war taking place between demons and humans. Yuki tells him that Toma is behind all this because he wishes to become the god and is plotting to kill everyone. The king's face is downcast with worry, and he declares that he can't sit just like that after hearing all this because it will eventually harm his nation's Dorado. But Yuki tells him that fighting will only escalate problems, so all they want from him is to provide backup in case they need it. Ro volunteers to join Yuki instead of her father and help him in the war. But while they are discussing, a strange fellow with a chiseled body walks inside the palace, storming in anger, and declares that humans and demons are their natural enemies, and considering their nation is already at risk, they can't afford to send their manpower as backup for other nations. When Yuki asked about him, he introduces himself as Ruga, the commander of the Dorado army and Ro's fiance. When Yuki looks at Ro in surprise, she frantically denies Ruga being her fiance. The king argues that he has promised to aid Yuki because he is the hero who saved this world, but Ruga mocks, saying that the same hero disappeared 5 years ago without a trace, and now magically he has returned, so they can't trust him at all. Ro can't take his idiotic talks anymore, so she lashes out at him and says that Yuki can be trusted because he is her future master. Seeing that things are going to escalate beyond control, the king decides to go with the side that will win in a duel, and soon Ruga challenges Yuki for a battle. The king also mentions that the one who will win this duel would immediately be engaged to Ro, and the crowd bursts into cheers while Yuki is nervous because he never thought that things will end up in marriage. The arrogant Ruga asks Yuki to meet him in the ground at noon and be prepared for his death. The next morning, the king explains to Yuki that the rules of the kingdom call for a duel in case there is disagreement between two parties. He tries to convince him that if he wins, then he will have the support of the army and Ro too. The night before the battle, Ro visits Ruga and warns him that Yuki is on a whole different level and he doesn't stand a chance against him. Ruga replies that he is a warrior himself and he doesn't have to fight Yuki to get to know the difference between their abilities, but as a beastman, and as a man he sometimes can't back down. Moreover, he shows Ro a tattoo charm and tells her that it was given to him by the Eastern mage and it converts the strong will of a person into strength. And even though things like these are banned in the kingdom and the king is strictly against these, he will still use it to protect her, even if it means losing his pride and life. Dejected that Ruga has made up his mind, Ro walks away. The next morning, the huge crowd gathers at the arena where Yuki and Ruga will face each other. Yuki never expected a huge crowd, but Ro tells him that the people of this kingdom love festivals. Soon, the king announces that the battle to decide who is the right person to marry Ro is going to begin soon. The battle begins, and Ruga attacks Yuki with his fists and claws, but he is unable to harm Yuki. Realizing that he will lose the battle, he goes on to transform himself into a wolf and attacks Yuki again, but he overpowers the wolf and slams him on the ground while the crowd cheers for Yuki. Yuki thinks that the battle is over and turns away from him, but Ruga immediately revives in his wolf form, but this time larger and more dangerous, and sends Yuki flying across the audience panel. A strange energy from mage tattoos starts pulsating through Ruga's body and turns him into a manic wolf, so the king immediately asks his guards to evacuate the public, while Livia hands Yuki his blade to face a cursed Ruga. Yuki realizes that Ruga has been suffering from a cursed energy and someone else is controlling his body as frantically tries to stop him from attacking common people. Ro jumps in and asks Ruga to stop with his fanaticism, but nothing seems to stop Ruga, who is transformed into a maniac beast with blood oozing out of his muscles, eyes burning red and body expanding in size and proportion. Soon, a whirlwind is seen over his head and suddenly an illusion of Toma emerges from him. Toma casually says that he had to kill Ruga to stop him, otherwise he would have made Yuki waste his precious magic energy. He tells him that he wishes to see him in person, and he knows that Yuki will come again. Toma suddenly points at Ro to attack her, but Yuki comes in between, and this infuriates Toma, who maniacally accuses Yuki for choosing a mere beast girl over him again. He always wished that Yuki would choose him, but since he didn't, he would make sure to kill humans, demons, beasts for Yuki's sake, and once the entire world is wiped off, then he and Yuki will live peacefully as gods. Yuki walks towards him, points his blade at him, and orders him to shut his mouth because he doesn't care about the absurd ideas floating in his head, but if he is going to hurt the innocents, then he will not hesitate to cut Toma again. Toma laughs and informs him that Destinia has started its invasion of the demonic continent and the world has been set in motion, and if Yuki has the time and power, then he can go ahead and stop it all. He declares that one day he will win Yuki and slowly disappears. After the battle, the king apologizes to Yuki for approving a dangerous battle, but Yuki asks him to get sentimental later, but for now they have to head over to the demonic continent right away to stop Toma. The king agrees to arrange a ship for them immediately and assures him that his army will make the preparations as soon as possible. Flashback to 10 years ago when Yuki and Toma were summoned to this world for the first time through the portal. They found themselves in a strange palace with the knights and a king who was overjoyed to see him and declared that they are the heroes who have come to save them. Yuki, the outspoken one, lashes out at them and orders them to stop calling them as heroes without telling them what happened, and they should not try to dump their kingdom's problems on them. However, soon Yuki started adapting to the life there and started practicing various tactics and techniques, while the shy and timid Toma is still homesick and keeps complaining about being trapped in a strange land with no way out. Toma always looked up to Yuki as his senior and followed in his footsteps. So when Yuki assured him that they are on the same boat and they will make it out of here together, he held on to his words and assumed that Yuki will always be on his side no matter what happens. One day, Yuki asked him to work with him to stop the war because killing and getting killed by strangers in an unknown land is going to be a waste of time and lives. But Toma was hesitant because he was not strong physically and mentally like Yuki, and declared that it would be impossible for him, but Yuki assured him that they are chosen as heroes, and they wouldn't know if they are capable of doing something until they try. He tells him that they only have each other since they come from the same place, and in other words, they are brothers from the same hometown, so he will make sure to protect Toma. After some days, Yuki plans to leave Destinia and go out to explore the strange world that they have landed in. He wanted to do that in order to stop the war and get enough information of the realm they are in. However, Toma couldn't accompany him because he was still weak and sacred, but before seeing Yuki off, he promised to him that when he will return, he will find him strong enough to stop the war and strong enough to accompany Yuki in battles. Time passed and seasons changed, and while Yuki was out there trying his best to stop the wars and learn more about the world and its rules, Toma, on the other hand, was fighting battles for Destinia. One day he was awarded the title of the Silver Knight for extraordinarily defending Destinia in battles, and he received his sword from the king. He started to be known as the brave hero of the kingdom of Destinia. The people and army of Destinia started pinning his hopes on him, praying that one day Toma will lead the nation. Toma is happy with the newfound fame, but at the same time he keeps waiting for Yuki to return. He knows that he has kept his promise to Yuki by becoming strong both personally and politically, and hopes to end the war soon. But one day when Destinia was attacked by some kingdom and Toma was leading the battalion, he absent-mindedly entered a strange cave with a statue of a headless woman holding onto a necklace. After killing a hidden enemy soldier, Toma was planning to return, but suddenly the cave lit up with ivory light and the statue started speaking to him. The woman starts luring him by saying that she knows everything about his hatred, enmity, and all the evil inside him, but Toma is least bit interested in that nonsense and strats, walking away until the woman claims to know his desires. Toma looks at her and wonders what his desires might be, but all he could think of was Yuki and his promise to become strong and fight alongside him. But soon the necklace on the statue gives off a strange energy which possesses Toma, turning his eyes into a bright shade of red. Soon he walked out of the cave, but he still kept thinking about what the woman said. Suddenly, a knight comes to him and informs him that he has got an urgent message from the capital which says that a truce has been called in the name of peace and all forces are asked to return and they will sign a peace treaty. He also tells him that the leaders of the peace treaty will be passing from the kingdom soon and they are asked to ensure their safety. Soon, the carriage passes right in front of him, and when he looks inside, he sees Yuki happily chatting away with other comrades. He looks at him with wide eyes, and Yuki too looks at him, but for only a moment, and then turns away to continue with his chit-chats. Soon, the peace treaty is signed inside the palace, and everyone cheers for Yuki, while he is surrounded by a lot of new friends. A strange loneliness fills Toma's heart because he had assumed that after decades of not meeting each other, Yuki will spend some time with him as well. The kingdom is celebrating Yuki's arrival and the end of the war, and everyone looks happy. Finally, Toma sees Yuki alone on top of a castle, so he walks towards him and praises him for his hard work, while Yuki too appreciates him for doing his best to protect Destinia. However, before Toma can say anything, Elka and others call Yuki to join the party, and Yuki excuses himself from Toma to walk towards them. But suddenly, after much hesitation, Toma reminds him of his promise and asks if they should return to their world. However, Yuki was in no mood to leave the kingdom and says that the stupid war has finally ended and there is so much still left to see in the new strange land, so it's finally the beginning of his happy-go-lucky life in another world. As soon as he hears this, the woman's voice echoes in him again, urging him to hate Yuki for being selfish. And she keeps making Toma believe that Yuki has changed and doesn't wish to keep his promise. As soon as Yuki starts walking away, the energy possesses Toma and the necklace starts glowing with cursed energy, transforming him into a maniac. He calls out Yuki and declares that he will kill anyone that comes between them, including demons, humans, and beasts. Seeing this, Yuki is extremely alarmed, so he tries to stop Toma, but Toma seems to have been possessed by a powerful curse. They are engaged in a fierce fight when suddenly Yuki slashes his sword across Toma's cursed necklace, while Toma attacks him too, and soon a burst of energy envelopes them. When Elka, Glean, and others run towards the rooftop, they find that there is a huge crater. However, neither Toma nor Yuki can be seen. However, Toma enters into the cave again, and from there he gets to know that he can make an army of people who will become his followers, and that's how Toma became Yuki's arch-enemy. On the other hand, just as Toma had told Yuki, the ships of Destinia laden with soldiers and Yuki's classmates are heading towards the Devil's Continent. The general on the ship asks his men to use all their strength to destroy the demons because it's a royal order from their king. On the ship's deck are Glean, Elka, Yuhi, and Thea uses her magic balls to check the presence of magic, and soon enough she can trace Toma's magic from nearby. She declares that there is no doubt that Toma is on the island and their real enemy is not the demons but Toma himself. Glean points out that the general and others are all riled up to defeat the demons, and if they try to tell them that Toma is behind all this, then they would probably treat them as spies. Elka argues that if they won't do anything now, then they will start a pointless war with demons. Yui, however, declares that she believes in Yuki and she is sure that he is out there trying his best to stop the war, so all they have to do for him is to buy more time. Thea agrees with her and declares that they should try their best to avoid as many casualties as possible, and for that Yuki is the best candidate. Finally, they all put their weapons together and resolve to help Yuki and stop the war to win the peace again. Soon, Destinia's ships reach the demon continent and a brutal clash begins between the two armies. The Destinia general orders his soldiers to shoot the demon's warehouse with magic, while the demon's head orders his men to keep killing the enemies as much as they can and keep them away from their military base. Seems like they all will end up killing each other and the chaos erupts through the continent with both sides unwilling to back down. On the other hand, Elka, Glean, Thea, and Yui gather Yuki's classmates and order them to wait till the enemy focuses their entire attention to the front before using their individual tricks and weapons. Soon, Elka yells a command asking them to march forward while Glean tackles the enemy's soldiers with all his might. Elka and Thea use their magic tricks to eliminate their enemy. Yuki's classmates are a bit undertrained and hesitant, but nevertheless they march forward to face the demons head-on. Yui stood in the middle of the battlefield watching as her classmates surrounded a wounded demon soldier. The creature was already too injured to fight and she couldn't let them kill it. With a firm hand, she stepped in and stopped them, reminding them that killing a helpless soldier went against the ethics of war. Her classmates, however, didn't share her view. One of them, frustrated and angry, shouted at her. He argued that in war, they had to kill or be killed. If they didn't finish off the demon now, it might come back to kill them later. But Yui refused to accept this way of thinking. She told them that they couldn't lose their humanity just because they were in a war. Killing something that couldn't defend itself wasn't right. She wanted them to remember what it meant to be human, even in such horrible circumstances. War didn't have to turn them into monsters. As Yui tried to convince them, a strange voice interrupted. It mocked her, calling her weak for not being able to kill the enemy. Before she could respond, the sky suddenly split open, revealing blue portals. From these portals, metal monsters began to pour out. Yuki immediately recognized them from an earlier battle in the strange land. They had fought these creatures before, and back then, Yuki had defeated them easily. But now, with so many of them appearing, Yuki knew this time would be different. The real fight was just beginning. On the other hand, another portal opens up from beneath the ground, and from it emerges a demo girl with bright red eyes, which clearly indicates that she is possessed. She moves on to slice Destinia's soldiers like vegetables, cutting them brutally with her sword. The soldiers are naturally scared by this strange creature and try to block her, but nothing seems to work on her. Suddenly, they all look at the red-haired demon lady, and to their disappointment, they realize that it's none other than Alize, who is possessed by the pawn of Toma named Meller, who used to live in the village disguised as a demon girl, while in fact she's a dragon who works under Toma. Elka angrily asks Meller about what she has done with Alize, and she replies that she was strong, so she turned her into a doll to take advantage of her powers and use them against her, and then she asked them all to become her dolls too. Seeing all this, Elka lashes out at Meller with her sword, but the possessed Alize blocks her midway, and despite Elka's pleas, she doesn't seem to recognize her and throws her away. Meanwhile, Meller slashes her arm and blood comes oozing out of it and gets splattered on the ground. Thea reveals that the blood spilled isn't ordinary, but rather infused with concentrated magic and a powerful curse. As the dark energy swirls around, 4 monstrous creatures begin to emerge from the blood. Each one is more terrifying than the last: a towering gorilla with fangs like blades, a massive dinosaur with jagged scales, a snake so large its coils could crush a city, and a fierce dragon with glowing eyes and flames flickering around its body. Amidst this chaos, it becomes clear that Meller herself is a monster with the unique ability to create such terrifying creatures. As the battle continues, they start taking down the monsters one by one, working in sync, using their strengths to cover each other's weaknesses. Just when it seems like the tide is turning, Yuki joins the group, adding to their strength. Thea then coldly questions Meller as all her monstrous creations lie defeated, asking what her next move will be. Soon Meller orders Alize to kill everyone, but Glean quickly steps in to stop her. He knows Alize is their dear friend, even though she's under Meller's control. Instead of harming her seriously, Glean uses the handle of his sword to knock her out, hitting her hard enough to make her unconscious but making sure she stays alive. As Alize falls to the ground, Glean checks that she's still breathing. He feels a brief moment of relief, but there's no time to rest as the battle continues. Meanwhile, Elka charges at Meller, her heart full of anger and determination. With a swift strike, she drives her blade into Meller's chest, hitting the organ that controls her magic powers. Blood gushes from Meller's body, and she falls into the nearby river. It seems like Meller is finally dead as her body drifts lifelessly in the river, and everyone starts to believe the battle is over. But to their shock, Meller starts moving again. She slowly rises from the river, her clothes soaked in blood, but a wicked grin spreads across her face. She begins to laugh, revealing that her body has been changed in ways no one expected. Meller explains that she has 2 pairs of hearts and lungs, making it nearly impossible to kill her. She then shares the story of how she and her people were once used as test subjects in dangerous science experiments. It was Toma who saved her, giving her this new life with strange powers. Now she feels she owes Toma for his kindness and is determined to help him complete his evil plans, no matter what it takes. Thea opened a shimmering portal, a gateway that seemed to twist reality itself. From this strange rift, a monstrous creature emerged, a terrifying mix of different beasts combined into one. Its massive form had parts from various animals: sharp claws of a lion, bat-like wings, and the long tail of a serpent. This creature wasn't just powerful. It was a magic tool created to help Meller break past her limits and grow even stronger. Thea explained that this was no ordinary spell. It was a dangerous magic technique designed to give Meller the ability to surpass everything that held her back. Without hesitation, Meller fused herself with the creature, her body merging with its monstrous form. She declared that the real battle had now begun. Watching this, Thea knew that something was different, because this spell wasn't just powered by magic, but also by her own life force and intense hatred. Her dark emotions made the creature stronger with every moment. Now in control, Meller attacked with the creature's brutal strength. Its strikes were fierce and quick, and the group fighting against it stood no chance. One by one, they were beaten down, their bodies battered and energy drained. They were left helpless, struggling to stand, let alone fight back. It seemed like the battle was lost, but then something unexpected happened. A butterfly flew past, its delicate wings fluttering in the middle of the chaos. Its presence triggered something inside Alize, who had been lying unconscious. Suddenly, she awoke with a burst of strength she didn't know she had. With one swift movement, she drove her weapon deep into Meller's body, piercing through the monstrous exterior. Meller's body went stiff as her life force faded away. Alizé, exhausted and heartbroken, collapsed beside her, pulling Meller into her arms. Despite everything, Alizé had always thought of Meller as her little sister, and in this final moment, she held her close, mourning the loss. As Meller's life ended, the beast she had fused with began to harden and turned into stone. The once terrifying creature was now just a lifeless statue. Glean, observing from nearby, calmly explained that Alizé had lost a lot of energy in the battle, but assured everyone that the healing power they had used on her was working. Though weak, Alizé would recover in time. Just when they thought the war was over, a strange hand emerges from the river, and they see another comrade of Toma named Shadow, but Yuki asks them to let her take charge this time. They all agree to let her deal with the Shadow, but just before anyone could attack, they sense a familiar magical energy, and it is none other than Yuki himself who lands between Shadow and Yuki and gently assures her that he will handle everything from now on. Yuki, caught up in her emotions, suddenly jumps on him and almost kisses him in the heat of the moment. But before things go too far, Yuki steps in and calmly asks her to relax. Realizing what she was about to do, Yuki quickly apologizes, feeling embarrassed. Yuki then asks her to step back and stay with Elka and the others, making sure she's safe. Meanwhile, Toma's man looks at Yuki, and Yuki recognizes him as the same caped man from Deze's wedding who had worked with Turan. Instead of fighting Yuki, he first starts to gaslight him and asks why he cares so much about the people behind him, because considering Yuki's power, they all are insects in front of him. He asks if Yuki seeks happiness from helping the weaklings, so Yuki replies that he doesn't care about crap like pleasure and happiness, and he just takes care of them because they are precious to him. Yuki declares that he will protect the world because he wishes to and not because he is some strange cult leader. On the other hand, the Cat sisters face a serious problem with Kuro, the inn owner who often forced Shiro to do odd jobs. The tension in the air was thick as Shiro stepped forward, determined to confront Kuro and make her tell the truth about her identity. Instead of responding, Kuro exploded in anger, her voice loud and harsh as she lashed out at them. She said that seeing their pretend sisterhood made her sick. This only made Shiro and Mineko more determined to take on Kuro together, knowing they had no other choice. As the fight began, Kuro attacked them fiercely, striking out with quick and wild movements. Mineko jumped in front of Shiro to protect her, taking the hit so Shiro could stay safe. The battle intensified as the two sisters fought back, working together to strike at Kuro. It all came to a head when Shiro gathered all her strength and delivered a powerful kick that sent Kuro crashing down into the ground, creating a huge crater that shook the earth. When the dust settled, Shiro looked at Mineko, feeling worried and exhausted. She thought it might be best to leave Kuro behind and end the fight, realizing it seemed pointless to continue. But just as she had this thought, Kuro unleashed her true power, stretching out her monstrous tentacles and trapping Mineko. Another tentacle shot towards Shiro, leaving both sisters caught in Kuro's wicked web with no escape in sight. As the situation grew more desperate, Kuro activated her limit break, a surge of energy that allowed her to strike Shiro with a powerful punch to the face, sending her reeling and trapping both sisters in a dangerous situation. Soon she starts cursing them for believing in sisterhood and yells at them for being dumb fools who believe in stupid relationships. But suddenly, Shiro springs to her feet and jumps in the air to join hands with Mineko to activate their beast merge power, and they both turn into one. They both attack Kuro and send her spinning across the ground. Resolving to end it all completely, they both cut her tentacles and finally kill her. After the dust settles, Shiro asks Mineko to not dwell much on Kuro's death because they still have to deal with the battle. On the other hand, Ro is fighting with a weirdo named Verdos. Verdos is made up of metal and covered with normal human skin, but that's because he was also a subject of science experiments until Toma saved him. Hearing Toma's name, Ro gets even more worked up because she's already heard about his delusional stories in an attempt to become a god. But for Verdo, there's nothing wrong with that because the powerful can do whatever they want to, and he knows this by experience. But as soon as he utters the name of Ruga, she runs towards him in anger and delivers a kick right across his face while accusing him for using his past life as a justification for killing others. Verdo soon transforms himself into several balls and starts beating Ro, making her bleed. Finally, when Ro couldn't take it anymore, she transforms herself into a fierce lion with long claws and climbs on top of Verdo's to punch the shit out of him. But the more she hits him, the more her paws bleed. Soon, Verdos releases sharp tentacles from his body, brutally piercing Ro, but she doesn't give up and beats the crap out of Verdos, and then she lies down waiting for her own death. But suddenly, Verdos stands up with shaking legs and heals Ro, and when Ro asks why he did that, he replies that he wanted to keep Ro's undefeatable pride alive for a long time, and then Verdos dies. Meanwhile, Yuki is dealing with another minion of Toma, but the minion is no match for Yuki. Tired that Toma is not appearing himself, He asks the minion to call Toma himself so they can fight and end this battle. But the minion declares that he will perish to death for his master, and he too activates his limit break power and transforms into an ugly monster named Skia. Yuki attacks him with his sword, but his dynamic suit only absorbs Yuki's power without doing much harm to Skia. Skia then smacks Yuki and sends him slamming against the ground with brutal force. Soon Yuki gets to his feet and activates his flying sword infused with fire magic to break past the armor of Skia. He throws the sword with all his might, but the sword could only break the armor while Skia turns back to his original self. Soon Skia starts blabbering about salvation and stupid stuff, saying that only people like Yuki are made to fight while people like him perish until the end, and then he runs towards Yuki with his sword, but Yuki yells at his foolishness and breaks his sword into two halves, and soon Skia dies too. On the other hand, Toma gets to know that all his comrades have died fighting, and it's finally the finale when Yuki and him will come face to face. As the chaos of previous battles settled, Yuki sensed a dark energy emanating from the Demon Lord's castle. He knew it was Toma, and without a moment's hesitation, he rushed towards the source. When he arrives at the castle, he is met with a grim sight of Dezes and Levi being defeated, their bodies wounded and lying helplessly on the ground. Toma stands over them, and his eyes burn with a possessive madness, the kind that hints at his deep-seated insecurities. Seeing Yuki, Toma smiles and says that he knew that Yuki would finally come to see him, and Yuki realizes that words will not sway Toma this time. Without a second thought, he charges at Toma, ready to engage him in battle. The clash between Yuki and Toma sends shockwaves through the castle, shaking its very foundations and causing cracks to form in the clouds above. Yuki fights with a fierce determination, using his skills to counter Toma's wild attacks. Toma, however, proves to be a strong opponent by quickly overwhelming Yuki with a flurry of strikes. A flying slash catches Yuki off guard, injuring him and forcing him to look for something else to defeat Toma. Realizing he needs a change, Yuki disarms Toma in a quick turn of events, but instead of picking up his sword, he chooses to fight with his fists. There is something deeply satisfying about using his enemy as a punching bag, channeling all his frustrations into each blow. He hammers Toma mercilessly, feeling a sense of justice in every punch he throws. Yet Toma is not someone who will accept defeat easily, so he steps back to regain his composure, determined to turn the tide of battle in his favor. Toma's sword transforms into a terrifying laser blaster, a weapon capable of devastating destruction. With one shot, he destroys a mountain and blasts a huge hole through it. The immense power of this weapon creates an atmosphere of tension and fear. However, the charge time is long enough for Yuki to land a few solid hits, making Toma struggle to aim accurately. In a moment of desperation, Toma switches his weapon from a laser shotgun to a rapid-firing Gatling gun to overwhelm Yuki with sheer firepower. But Yuki has his own secret weapon, his sacred sword, Glutton. This sword had the unique ability to consume attacks, absorbing the energy from Toma's gun. With newfound confidence, Yuki launched double flying slashes that tore through Toma's defenses, inflicting painful wounds. As the fight rages on, Yuki's friends, Dezes and Levi, slowly regain their strength and join in the brewing battle, cheering him on as he battled against the possessed Toma. As Yuki fights valiantly, he reminds Toma of his solitude, insisting that he is utterly alone and should surrender. These words struck Toma deeply, touching the raw insecurities that fueled his madness. Every ounce of passion and insanity that Toma had inside him was rooted in the fear of being left behind, and Yuki's words pierced through the chaos, echoing the truth he desperately tried to deny. With the weight of despair heavy upon him, Toma unleashes his full power without holding back. The cursed stone he has transformed his weapon into a grotesque form. Toma charges at Yuki, attacking with a ferocity that makes it hard for Yuki to find an opening. Yuki can only dodge and evade and is frustrated by Toma's relentless pursuit. The battlefield shifts dramatically, with Toma's fury intensifying as he chases Yuki around the castle. In a moment of pure desperation, Toma pointed his weapon toward Yuki's friends, deciding to attack them. The hero reacts quickly by blocking some of the incoming blasts with his sword, but some shots still manage to reach their targets. Yet to Toma's shock, no one is harmed because they had conjured the power of friendship to create a protective shield around themselves, showcasing the strength of their bond. This turn of events provided Yuki with the opening he desperately needed. Fueled by the energy of his friend's support, he launched a series of rapid-fire flying slashes, striking Toma's weapon and shattering it into pieces. The sound of metal breaking echoed throughout the castle, a sign of Yuki's growing dominance in the battle. He seized the moment and executed a final slashing attack that landed squarely on Toma, seemingly ending the conflict. However, just when it appears that victory is within reach, Toma's explosive emotions ignited a new wave of power within the cursed stone. His weapon undergoes a dramatic transformation, evolving into a fearsome cannon that radiates ominous energy. Even Yuki, taken aback by this sudden shift, realizing that an attack of this magnitude cannot be easily stopped. Toma prepares to unleash his new weapon, and the atmosphere grows tense with anticipation. As Toma descends, he believes he has finally won the battle, and a chilling laugh escapes his lips, and he looks down at Yuki with a sense of satisfaction, and he has lost all traces of human emotions in the process. However, Yuki rises to his feet, determination igniting within him. He refused to accept defeat and declared that he still had a duty to protect those who matter to him. Drawing on his mastery of dimensional magic, Yuki traps Toma in a powerful binding spell, causing the once mighty warrior to gasp in shock. Toma cannot comprehend how Yuki managed to gain such an advantage. Yuki calmly explains that he wasn't the only one capable of wielding such power, leaving Toma feeling terrified and helpless because he's aware that even his formidable cannon could not save him now. Yuki prepares to deliver the final blow and invokes his ultimate technique, Earth Eater, and drives Glutton into the ground. The earth trembles beneath them as rocks morph into a massive, ravenous jaw that lunges at Toma. In an instant, he is swallowed whole, his screams echoing into the abyss as he was consumed by an endless darkness. In that moment of despair, he realizes that all he had ever wanted was to be by Yuki's side, but thing longing that had twisted into his need for power. Yet Toma is not dead, but he is merely unconscious. As the snow gently falls around them, Yuki sits quietly beside him while staring at the shattered remnants of the cursed stone. When Toma eventually opens his eyes, he is surprised to find Yuki there, revealing that he had no intention of killing him. Instead, Yuki had aimed to bring Toma back to his senses. It had been a gamble, but it paid off when Glutton absorbed only Toma's curse. Yuki reminds Toma of the promise he had made to protect him, and tears welled in Toma's eyes as he realizes that Yuki's compassion and determination to help him were genuine. The hero urged Toma not to choose death as an escape, but to live and atone for his past mistakes. In the aftermath of their battle, Toma finds himself in a prison where he awaits his sentence. The punishment handed down to him is unusual, as he is required to use transfer magic to send Yuki's classmates back home. In doing so, he will give up his magic and no longer pose a threat to anyone. Accepting the deal, Toma swiftly transports all of Yuki's classmates back to their world. However, he chooses not to join them, declaring his intent to remain behind and atone for his sins. He will be embarking on a world tour in order to learn about different cultures and help those in need wherever he can. With the war officially over, Yuki finally has the opportunity for the leisure trip he has long desired. His friends are eager to join him on this adventure, but many have responsibilities to fulfill, leaving only Yuki available to accompany him. Together, they set off to explore the world, eager to meet new friends and share in the experiences that lay ahead. As they travel, they encounter familiar faces along the way. Levi continues to struggle with her fear of squids. Dezes, on the other hand, is working hard to rebuild her country, determined to restore it to its former glory after the ravages of war. Ruri runs her shop with enthusiasm, offering goods that showcase her unique talents. Ro has risen to the rank of commander of the Beast Kingdom's army, overseeing the defense of her realm with strength and wisdom. Meanwhile, the Cat sisters have taken on the role of her deputies, supporting her in every endeavor. Throughout their journey, Yuki discovered a multitude of wonders, each new experience enriching their lives in ways they had never imagined. They encountered breathtaking landscapes, tasted delicious foods, and forged bonds with people from all walks of life. Each moment added to their shared adventure, reminding them of the beauty and diversity the world has to offer.